This video is going to be presenting an essential part of how I am starting to dissect the world. It follows the exploration of a psycho-anthropological theory by John Gebser that I think holds a lot of merit, as well as its extension by a YouTuber called Formscapes. I like this theory because it bridges a gap between understanding that different animals and humans are conscious but clearly in a qualitatively different way. This theory attempts to explore types of consciousnesses and apply them to human beings throughout history. After all, why would we assume previous humans' consciousnesses were experienced like the one we have nowadays? The core idea is that humans throughout time have gone through different phases in how they conceptualized reality. You can imagine that the first kind of thinking/awareness we developed is a self-conceptualization within a natural environment. At that time, not many thoughts were had apart from satisfying drives and instincts. We were our perception of the environment. This was a logic of
identity
called archaic consciousness in Jan Gebser's theory. Over time, humans realized that the world was made up of spiritual essences, a realization that the human soul was different from its environment while also reflecting it, an awareness of the underlying repetitive patterns in nature, such as animal and weather spirits. This would coincide with the advent of cave paintings, where humans started representing the core essences of the various things they saw in the world on cave walls. Humans start noticing that observed phenomenon can be grouped using unobserved abstraction of what they have in common. This was an awareness of the unity of observed specific instances according to an unobserved but inferred underlying principle. Jean Gebser's theory refers to this as magical consciousness, a logic of identity. The next part in the development of human consciousness came when humans noticed the rhythmicity of nature, how seasons came in cycles, how the sun would set and rise. This awareness of the patternicity of nature also gave light to another observation. All these patterns have an equal opposite, think the sun and moon or summer and winter. This is an awareness of polarity. As humans began noticing patterns and opposites, like life and death, in the Bible, the story of knowledge of good and evil, which is the story of Adam and Eve, they developed an understanding that these opposites were connected and dependent on each other. This is where the idea of yin and yang comes from, a perfect example of how unity exists within opposition. This is when humans started producing myths where often opposite forces arise out of a singular situation or where gods clash because of their different goals. As this happened, humans were able to notice the tensions within their own interiority as well. This led to greater self-awareness, humans now being able to identify the pull of different urges, duties, emotions, and thus more able to reflect on their choices. This was called mythical consciousness. Later in the modern age, and until now, we find
mental
awareness, wherein rational discursive thought takes form. This is where we find procedural rational logic, where opposites become tools of operations that allow us to come to concrete conclusions. If A unequals B and B equals C, then A unequals C. This is
mental
consciousness. Later, another structure came about called perspectival consciousness, which explains the appearance of perspectival art, new models of astronomy, where we started taking the perspective of the sun in the solar system and simplifying the trajectory of planets, materialism, and eventually even postmodernism. For an insanely satisfying deep dive into this theory, check out the Formscapes YouTube channel. The acquisition of these different types of awareness/consciousness structures throughout the history of humanity can also be seen as emulated by every child during development too, with discursive consciousness corresponding to Piaget's concrete operational stage for any psych enjoyers out there. As a new structure is formed, the previous is pushed into the unconscious.